Hello friends and welcome back for episode 56 of our Terraria 1.3 Let's Play. Hope you're all doing well today. We are spawning into a brand new world again. We have a slightly more humble goals than I think we have had in episodes past. Today my only goal is to see if we can get down to hell, which I've actually already drilled a tube for us to go down to it with, and I'm going to be pumping one of these suckers in the lava water and doing my best to dispatch of the wall of flesh, and then we're going to go and see if we can pop some orbs. Or rather, not orbs, but altars in our corruption, and see if we can maybe make some new materials happen. That's the hope, anyway. This world is called Willy World, by the way, because I just felt like writing that for some reason. The alliteration, I guess, caught my ear just right. So we had some new developments since yesterday. I actually managed to beat another Lost challenge. Today, we managed to beat the chest and, of course, the cathedral. So that means all I've got left for Lost Unlocks is the boss rush, which means I'm very, very close. I'm, in fact, 5 items away from True Platinum God status. So I think this could happen, like, this weekend. And I'm really excited about that, because I've been playing Isaac since the day it came out, and I'm still not quite there yet. It's funny, the items that I'm still missing, well, one of them is funny, the others are not funny at all because I just didn't have them unlocked, but I didn't have Missing No yet, for whatever reason. I think I was just very late to unlock that item in particular. I don't remember which character that comes from, or challenge rather, but I did end up getting that, I think, almost last. So hopefully it should be fairly painless if I could just get the boss rush challenge out of the way, which I don't anticipate to be easy, of course, and I did spend already 3 or so hours on it. Just yesterday, after I got the other win. Yeah, I'm gonna give it my all, and hopefully with a little bit more patience, I should be able to come out the other side contented. So yeah, that was my big development for the other day, and it felt fantastic. I had Lynn in the call, so like we didn't even stress out as much, because when I did the first run, I was a freaking wreck. Like, my hands were pretty much shaking because of the pressure of, if I fail this, it's like I didn't make any progress at all. I may as well have just wasted all of that time. The second time around when I was beating the chest, it's just like, hey, you know, we're just fighting another boss. And I was maybe a little bit in a more stable situation instead of being so precariously thrown in. Alright, so let's toss this guy. Well, let's precariously toss this guy into the lava. Oh, I favorited him, so that's why I can't throw him. There we go. We'll summon our dragon, summon our portal, summon our staff. And 3, 2, 1. Yeah. It's not much of a countdown timer, to be honest. I barely even summon these things. It's already gone. Alright, what's in our bag today? I don't anticipate we're getting anything new out of these, but I still like opening them because it feels fun. It's like a little unboxing video. Alright, so get rid of that, and I'll sell all that stuff off later. The treasure bag seems so fanciful with its little rainbow name intaglio, and like, you know, you get the stuff out, it's like, not that fancy anymore, I guess. That's alright. Alright, mission accomplished there. Now we're gonna go back up to the surface, and we're gonna go ahead and head over to the corruption, which I believe we've got a bunch right over here. I don't know if we'll be as lucky as we were last time to get a whole bunch of tubes that lined up. I guess we can put that to the test, because people have told me that is how they, in fact, generate often. So we'll see. And once we find a world with the good materials that I'm after, we can start to establish a base here like I've been promising for all of these episodes since, like, the beginning of the series. I'll do it properly. Somebody had suggested, why don't I make a base that's made up of, like, all the blocks in the game? I was like, you know, I hear where you're at. It makes sense. I respect your opinion on that one, but that's gonna look freaking awful. There's like 100 different blocks. I'm gonna just mash them all together like a patchwork quilt. I mean, maybe it would be just kind of like wild to see that, but I don't know. I think I value order. Oh, we got the megaphone, finally! Alright, Willy World is the lucky world for me, apparently. This is the place to be for all kinds of fancy things. Let's go into this tube and see what's down here. There is one. Alright, well this is going to tell us if we've got a world that's worth caring about. If it's not... Oh, right, I need to do that. Cobalt. Again, we don't want cobalt. That's bad. Mithril is good, and titanium is good. So we got 2 out of the 3 are new. I don't know how to feel about that. I feel kind of okay about it, but also kind of frustrated, because, like, why couldn't we have just gotten all 3? Well, can't have everything. What we could do also while we're here, I go ahead and fight the giant worm again. Oh, you know what else I found? I think people have told me this before, but I forgot. If you put out your yo-yo and then put on your drill unit, it actually just leaves the yo-yo out until it's done. So, you know, you can actually still do damage and fly around this way. Not exactly practical, and if you, for some reason, unclick, or if your yo-yo gets stuck on something, it retracts into your drill containment unit again, and then you don't have it until you unsummon the thing. So, you know, it's not practical. I don't really recommend it as, like, a means of doing steady damage or anything, but it's nice to know that you can do that, right? Deadly musket. I don't know why I keep opening that chest as if there's going to be new things in it every time. Meteorite has landed. Screams echo. You have one more over here? I would have been surprised if there wasn't. And there we go. Eater of Worlds has been awakened. And we'll fight that right about here. And I will make sure that I grab the bag when I'm done. And that will be in about 6 more seconds, if that. Unless it just gets stuck in the freaking wall, which is quite possible. Hey, we got a trophy. We got a whole bunch of goodies. And even some hearts dropped. How nice. What did I get? So, open the bag. Bag has worm scarf, of course, and a ball of hurt. I don't know why I think I'm going to get other stuff from that, honestly. It's like, it's all stuff that I've had already. I don't know, maybe you guys told me there was one other item that I was missing from it. Either way, I guess there's not really any harm in it. I'm just, like, taking up a couple seconds fighting a boss, which, you know, no big deal. Fought a few bosses before, I'll fight a few more. Man, there's a lot of money everywhere. There's freaking units, these nuggets of worm. Just leave their bits all over the freaking place. I would like to find, like, 100 more of these altars if we could. See, this seems like a more reasonable spawn pattern. It's not quite as excessive as it was in the other one. What is going on down there? It's like a new type of worm. Something dropped Cursed Flame. I don't feel like I've gotten that before, actually. Is that a rare item or something? I don't know. Anyway, there's more corruption, I'm pretty sure. It just might not be right here. So let's see. Yeah, there's a bit more over to the further west, so let's head over in that direction. Maybe I'll just pop all these orbs since they're next to me. We fight the Eater again, no big deal. It's funny that this has become, like, where we're going with things. It's, like, basically stuff that poses no challenge to me, but I still need to do anyway. It'd be cool if there were other options. Maybe there could be, like, a boss rush mode in this game, and you're rewarded with, like, some ultimate expert item. I don't even know what, like, I would want beyond any of this. Maybe just a thing that unlocks more inventory space would be fantastic. But I've complained about that enough over the years now. I should probably let it rest. So I had one little topic for discussion, and it's perhaps a slightly controversial one, but I'm coming at it from a position that, if you are in my head, you know that I mean zero controversy by bringing this up. It's just one of those things that's very easy to get sort of mutated into a bigger issue that isn't really what I'm talking about. So I want to talk about violence in video games a little bit, and I'm coming at it from the perspective of someone who is very open-minded, someone who has absolutely no desire to see censorship in any form. Free exchange of information is, like, top priority, so, you know, don't think that I'm saying anything to the contrary. So this game, Until Dawn, came out recently. It is a horror game, and it sort of takes the premise of sort of like one of those choose-your-own-adventure, sort of cutscene-driven, picture like a Heavy Rain or something like that. But it's with a sort of a prototypical teen horror movie bent to it, but with some twists. And I'm not going to give away any spoilers, so don't feel like you need to cover your ears or anything. I'm just going to sort of mention things about the nature of the game, but nothing specific. It's a very, very, very violent game, and I wasn't aware of this at first, and ultimately there's no real problem here, and I'm not proposing any solution to the proposed problem that you might think I'm trying to propose, so don't think that either. I know there's a lot of caveats to this conversation for whatever reason. I just don't want to incite people to action against me, because it's really not what I'm after. So yeah, I watched a little bit of this game on Twitch, and there's a secondary controversy about that. Apparently Sony doesn't want people to archive their broadcasts of this game on Twitch through the Sony's own streaming platform, which is actually kind of reasonable considering the whole game kind of lives and dies on the spoilers, because it's really one of those games, although it's got like a ton of endings, it's probably like minor permutations of endings, not like really meaningful ones. So once you've seen a few of the twists, I imagine you'll probably see like the majority of the game. So honestly, I did myself a huge disservice by watching a lot of it. Oh, did I summon the Eater? I didn't even realize. But I just was kind of like drawn into it, and it kind of grabbed my attention. And I was really enjoying watching it until I got to a couple of points that were like, oh, this makes me kind of want to hurl because it's so freaking gross. And it was like Saw levels of gross, if you know what I mean. Like really kind of like they get into the gore to the point where it seems like they're almost glorifying it. And it made me tweet because I wanted to know what other people had to say about this. I really don't know where we are these days on like desensitization of violence, or to violence rather, and I think personally I've gone on a bit of a curve on this topic. Like in the past I used to have really not much of a limit there. I didn't seem to be bothered by most things. You know, I've grown up with violent video games. I've played Doom, I've freaking played Mortal Kombat and all of that stuff. None of that bothers me really at all. But I think what really does get to me a little bit more, and I think maybe this needs to be a discernment that gets made sometimes when people are talking about video games, is this violence the kind of violence in it that has repercussions? Like, do the characters in it have enough autonomy that it feels like when violence is committed against them, that something is actually lost? Because people use the term cartoon violence all the time, and I'm not sure that they necessarily use it the way that I would use it, which is to denote the fact that something maybe doesn't have repercussions. Very much the way that, you know, freaking Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote, they spar all the time and the freaking coyote falls off a cliff, and then 3 seconds later they pan over to a new scene and he's fine again. Like, that's kind of what video games used to be a lot of the time. When there's violence, and very much like Mortal Kombat, you know, the character gets brutally murdered at the end of an episode or at the end of a match, and the next match, nothing has changed. You know, the character's back to normal, there was no actual repercussion there at all. So that, like, that's one level of it. The other level is, like, is it traumatic? Do they show emotions with the violence? Because that's the other thing Mortal Kombat doesn't do. The characters, for the most part, have no humanity to them. I mean, they make grunts and groans, and they make weird faces, and ultimately, more recently, that's gotten a bit more difficult to look at, to be honest. Like, Mortal Kombat X is much more brutally violent than even only a couple iterations ago, just because the graphical prowess of these games has gotten really very, very naturalistic. So, you know, that actually matters a bit too. Well, now that we're in the realm of, like, pseudo-Uncanny Valley level animation, and even photorealism at times when it comes to characters' faces being mocapped and actually just literally scanned into games. Like, you can see actors in games now that are actually, it's just their face. So it's a bit different when you see a non-feeling, non-emoting, sort of non-autonomous robot getting taken apart with some red everywhere, versus, you know, someone that you've maybe gotten slightly attached to as a human, you know, again, with, I'm not saying that they're really human, but, like, with a little bit more humanity than we're used to. When you start seeing stuff happen to them that is, like, unfathomably grotesque, it strikes a different chord, you know? So I think that those things don't necessarily all belong in the same category of, this is M-rated. Anytime there's, like, torture or things of that nature that are just really exploitive violence, I guess is a way I could say it. I don't know if that's really the right way to use that term, but it's kind of how I perceive it in my head. Violence that seems like it relishes the idea of violence, versus violence that is just sort of the means to an end. It's just sort of there as part of storytelling, or it's part of... that's not even the right way to say it. It's just part of just shock value. It's just there to grab your attention, and then immediately we move on, because, you know, short attention spans and such. You know, if there's 6 characters in the game and one of them gets brutally murdered and tortured, you're obviously going to take a different stance on that, versus if they get brutally murdered and tortured and then nothing changes and they're back and they're still in the game the same way that they were a second ago, you know? Hopefully that makes sense. And then there's the other element of it, which is, this is maybe even more controversial than what I was talking about, but the fact that there's all these media gatekeepers that sort of look at violence in one hand versus nudity in the other hand, and, like, they have no equation to each other. Like, violence is not as natural. I mean, it's natural, yeah, we've dealt with violence since the beginning of time, sure. But in an ideal life, I would think that most of us would probably rather not be stabbed or have to stab each other or things like that. Where, you know, in the other realm, and granted, this doesn't apply to everyone, most people probably have some sort of sexual drive, and seeing a pair of breasts should not probably elicit the same sort of recoiling fear response that it seems like media moguls would like us to have. And I know that there's a lot of politics involved in this, and I know there's a lot of very touchy realms of conversation that this could go into, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, but I think having sort of a puritanical relationship with nudity doesn't serve anyone. Whereas I think if we were to have the same sort of repulsion to violence, maybe that seems like it's a bit more in line with reality in my mind. And this is probably not even, like, I'm probably preaching to the choir here. I think probably a lot of people agree that this is obviously a big double standard. The fact that you could have an episode of whatever your Let's Play is that happens to feature, like, a nipple for a split second that someone forgot to censor, and that could get your YouTube channel completely taken down, versus you can show hours and hours of people being decapitated and disemboweled. Those things feel like they're not on the same level to me, you know? So again, I don't want to piss anybody off, but I just found it to be something that I think maybe bears commenting on. Like, what level are you desensitized to violence at this point? Do you feel like this is something that's become a bit harder for you to look at? Does it bother you to see these things? Because it bothers me a little bit at times. And again, it depends on the circumstances of the violence. There's a lot of cases where I really have no problem with it at all, and I'm actually a big fan of horror movies in general. Things that are very dramatic and have a lot of suspense, and, you know, even if they do culminate in violence, violence is a part of the world that we live in, yes. I certainly won't deny that, and I don't want to have the world completely absolved and whitewashed of it either. It's just sometimes I think that we relish it for the sake of relishing it, for the sake of shock value, for the sake of eyeballs and viewership. And maybe it goes somewhat a little too far at times. And please, please do not spoil anything about Until Dawn in the comments here. I will probably ban you if you do. So be really careful about that. This isn't a discussion about the specifics of this. It's a discussion about the generalities of violence. One thing that I can do to perhaps equate, and if you're just curious about, like, to what level of violence I'm discussing about this game in particular, there's a scene that stuck out for me in the more recent Tomb Raider game, where Lara is, like, rafting or flying down a stream by accident. Like, she ends up in a river that's pulling her really quickly, and at the end of the river, and, you know, this is, yes, it's a spoiler, but also the game's been out for a few years now, so if you haven't played it, like, this isn't a major thing. There's all kinds of manners of different violent and brutal deaths on Lara. But she ends up impaling her freaking head on a spike at the end of this stream. And I saw this the first time we were streaming this live with Ryan, I think it was, that was playing it. And I don't know if I was, like, on the Skype call in the background or what, but I was like, oh god, that's awful. Like, not that I have grown hugely attached to that particular incarnation of Lara Croft, and not that, and again, this kind of breaks the thing I was just talking about where it's cartoon violence, because she comes back with no problems at all, although progressively throughout that game she does get more and more injured. But in this particular case, that final killing blow does not change her as a character in any way. She just comes back without it again. But seeing her face emoting as she is grappling with the idea that a spear has been pushed through her chin and up through the top of her head, as she presumably, you know, struggles with the final moments of her consciousness as she is about to die, is a little more heavy than maybe I was ready to experience at that very moment. And it triggers a little bit of, like, a dilemma sometimes in my mind. It's like, oh, mortality's a thing, right? We're all gonna die. Okay, maybe I didn't want to think about that for a moment, but again, and I grant that this is not going to apply to everybody. Many people don't have any issues with this at all, and that's fine. I mean no judgment upon you if you do have that. You're completely entitled to feel however you feel about the situation. I just sort of wanted to put this out there as just a general talking point to see what do you guys think these days. And especially since violence in games can be so freaking well replicated and simulated, is it something that maybe at least bears more mentioning? Maybe there needs to be, I mean, not just, like, an M rating, but, like, this is M rated, but also contains extreme graphic violence. I mean, they say things like that, but it still doesn't quite grasp the realm that I want to sort of address it in, if you know what I mean. Like, there's another echelon of violence that I feel like just kind of rides in on the coattails of other types of violence. Did I? Yeah, I did this realm already. So, yeah, okay. That's kind of where I wanted to talk about with that whole thing. Until Dawn honestly looks like a really cool game. And I'm not even trying to really talk any kind of trash about it. I actually would have probably ended up playing it had I not gotten so absorbed in the stream that I was watching. And I know this is also not the best way to advertise a game like that. Not that I'm trying to advertise it, but the fact that I just said, like, hey, this game seems cool, but if you watch it, there's not a lot of reasons to play it. Like, that's kind of crappy. And maybe they need to design more for that, but then again, it has like 200-something endings, so maybe they did design for it, and I'm just a dumbo for talking about it in such a way. But yeah, I feel like I kind of spoiled a lot of it. I'd recommend don't spoil it. If you have any interest in a horror game like this, just be aware. It's incredibly violent. The game seems pretty well made, too. Like, it seems like they really put a lot of effort into the ambience of it. There's a lot of kind of cringy dialogue, but that seems to come with the territory of pretty much every horror game. I would also love to get out of the realm of, like, horror tropes in video games for the sake of gamification. I kind of want to cite one specific thing, and I don't think this really feels like a spoiler in any way, because it's so vague. It's just sort of a trope that happens in video games in general. There was a gate. That gate was, like, 4 feet tall. It was impassable for whatever reason for these characters, and there was a wall next to it that was like 3 feet tall. It was less than the height of one of the characters' bodies, and they needed to get to the thing on the other side of the gate, saw it was locked, and then turned around. Like, I want to not have that be a thing anymore, right? Like, apply human logic to things. You know, you're an able-bodied human being of the age of around 20 years old. You're able to run and survive in an Arctic wilderness situation. You'll be able to climb over like a 4-foot fence. No problems at all. It wasn't even a dangerous, precarious situation either. There was really like there were no spikes. There was nothing to impinge the movement of the person on the other side. It was like a flat landing. They just, you know, they saw a gate. It was locked and it became impassable for some reason. Like, why does that need to be a thing anymore? And I know adventure games have really made this, like, so much of a possibility for developers to just sort of exploit gamification to reach their own ends, and I wish we could get past that, and I think that'll be really a big turning point. Oh, a strange plant. When we can finally decide, like, we don't need to be a victim of these circumstances anymore. We can actually just, like, have the kind of level of autonomy that you would expect of a human being. Right? Like, it's a realm of realism, and I use that term loosely because realism implies the realism movement in art. I mean naturalism, and I want to get that to be a thing eventually that people care about. Ultimately, it really doesn't matter. It's all just words, but it would be nice if we were all talking the same language sometimes. But I would love it if we could just get past this era of, like, everything is sort of governed by gamification, and, like, what would you do in this situation if you could figure out a way out of it using your own intellect and logic? Like, that would be cool if you could actually use that thought pattern to get yourself out of that situation in the video game, right? And it just seems so rare that we're given the opportunities to do things that actually line up with reality. I really don't need most of these items. What's the cheapest here to sell? Probably, like, the Vile Thorn. No, we'll just get rid of these Ebonstone blocks. I don't need those at all. No, I want the strange plant, please. Right. Anyway, so that's kind of where I was at with all of that stuff. Game looks pretty cool. I would recommend it probably, as long as you know what all the things I just talked about, and now you do. So feel free to chime in. I'd like to know what your opinions are about violence in video games these days. Again, I want no, like, legislation. I don't want censorship. I don't want anything. I just want, if anything, to just be a little bit better appraised of those things going in. And I didn't even, like, have a problem, really, because I didn't even pay for the thing. I just watched somebody play it on stream. So, like, I'm not really complaining. Just, I know that this potential is there for people who have some squeamishness about violence in video games to all of a sudden find themselves at an impasse where they're like, man, I really don't want to look at this. And, you know, that image is going to stick with me in my mind for a long time, potentially, and I don't like that idea. And if that can be avoided, just by a little bit of information in the right place, yeah, that'd be cool. But I think this is probably, you know, as a functioning adult, I probably really don't need to worry too much about this. It's not really a big problem in my life. It's just sort of a good topic for discussion is really all it is. I play plenty of violent games still, and I still will, and there will be times when I see something I wish I didn't see, and I move past it and, you know, get on with my life, because it really doesn't matter that much. But for some people, maybe it could trigger much more serious issues. I don't know. Well, I mean, I do know that that's definitely a thing, but I can't speak for them, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, we've just smacked a whole bunch of those altars, and the goal now is, like, we can dig around in this world and find all kinds of bits and pieces of minerals that I could potentially add to my collection. And the hope is, if we're lucky, I could just go ahead and take some of this stuff back home to my other world and drop it off. I'm getting dangerously close to my dungeon. What is this painting here? I kind of want to grab all this stuff. What can I need to drop my piggy down over here. Piggy-doo. Hello. And you know, it's only going to get worse in terms of, like, our ability to handle some of these things. Like, if you're squeamish at all, we're getting very into the realm of, like, real naturalism and photorealism a lot of the times now. So, you know, if you're like me and some things you'd rather not see, like, I think that might be something worth addressing, getting on further into stuff. I can't seem to drop this topic for whatever reason. It seems to be very interesting to me. Man, it's just, there's so many people that go so far on the other side of things that are like, man, I can't agree with this statement that people are making, and I have no appreciation for art or understanding about people's subjective opinions, so I want to legislate all things away that don't affect me and I don't even care about. I can't stand that kind of mentality. You get all these people that are, like, in their late 50s to 70s that are like, I really want to make sure video games can't do what they're trying to do anymore because reasons. Because of, like, the erosion of morals or something. And it's just so dumb. Freaking let people do what they're trying to do and get on with their own lives. If it doesn't bother you, then who cares? And the fact that we had to have this whole discussion about are video games art, and does that then entitle them to some special privileges? Like, why did we have to even talk about that? Why is it that, for some reason, interactive media, there's a question about whether or not that's legitimate as an expression of art? Like, it just seems moronic that you should have to even open that up for conversation. If you had an art gallery, and you freaking put an interactive exhibit in there, and there are tons of them out there that exist in this very same nature, why would anyone think twice about, oh, is censorship appropriate for this? Is something about an interactive media transformative in a way that changes it from being in that same realm? I don't think there's any case to say that that's true at all. And I don't think I've ever seen a case that's tried to make that happen, and yet that conversation went on for, like, years. And many could say that it's still going on in certain pockets. I mean, I know there's still politicians out there that I think if they got their way, they would make video games, like, very, very restrictive on what content can be used in them. And, you know, I guess that's just a mark of, like, if you really want to know what my opinions are, like, I said all that stuff I just said, but I absolutely don't want any censorship at all. I completely grant that there are things that I absolutely don't want in my life at all, but I grant that it's totally within people's rights to express those opinions. You know, I'm super not cool with racism, but if you stop letting people have racist thoughts, then, or express racist mentalities, you know, it's a slippery slope, and all of a sudden, well, you don't know where your rights are going to be anymore. Granted, I don't want racism to be a thing, obviously, but as long as it is a thing, like, this is such a weird conversation to have. I hope you all know what I'm trying to say. I believe that you have your right to express whatever it is that you're trying to express, whether or not I agree with it. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, the fact that we need to have court cases, drawn-out legal battles over, you know, are games allowed to exist in the form that they are? Why? Have you ever heard a case that explained that in a way that was, like, actually reasonable? I don't think there is one, right? It's just people who don't understand the industry trying to regulate a thing that they're scared of or don't have enough insight into to understand it better. Which then begs the question, if you're trying to legislate something, why have you not taken the time to understand it better? Right? Like, if you care enough to make a statement on something, one would think you would care enough to actually look into it a bit more. Although I'm sure that I'm a hypocrite in some ways for saying that, because there's plenty of things I've weighed in on that I don't have a perfectly good understanding of. And I also wouldn't say that you should not be allowed to have a statement on things. It's just like, if you're gonna make a law about it is the thing. Like, there's no repercussions for me having an opinion about video game violence or politics. But if you are in a position to make a difference like that, I would think you would need to care more about your demographics and their viewpoints. And just because even, like, if you're not representing a group of people that have a lot invested in it, but your opinion could be influential, like, it's really disingenuous to not care enough to at least realize that you might have a bit of a swaying effect over other people. And even, like, to let that bias affect you is what I'm trying to say. Even if you don't agree with something, put your biases aside long enough to understand if the thing that you're trying to do is going to then actually have a sort of, like, an objective negative repercussion over people who maybe you don't care about, but, like, you're still a human being, so you should care a little, you know? It sucks that there are people in that position that are like, you know what, I can just completely turn a blind eye to everyone that doesn't directly fund my life. That seems really, really bad. And I don't agree with a lot of people about a lot of things, but I still hope that we can connect on some level with, you know, the concept of humanity, and, like, we all want to live and prosper and have good, happy lives. So, just because my political agenda might not align with someone else doesn't mean you need to disregard that person entirely as a person. You know, we still have a lot of the same, in fact, the majority of the same life goals and wants, most likely. And I'm sure there are fringe outliers in that as well. But just saying, like, you know, people are still human. It doesn't matter what you believe. And a lot of the time, I think a lot of the people that can't find common ground is just because they're, you know, inarticulate or not able to put aside whatever pride or prejudice they might have to discuss something openly. And it's, unfortunately, psychology plays into this stuff so much. People just freaking stand their ground on anything just to not be proven wrong. And to just set up this precedent, you know, to say that, like, I don't care if I'm wrong, let's have an open and honest discussion about a thing, is, like, one of the most important things about humanity that needs to make sure it stays a thing. I have so little patience for people that immediately shut down when they hear an opinion that's contrary to their own. And again, I'm sure there's something that I've been a hypocrite about with that, you know, regarding that as well, so, you know, no need to, like, point that out if that's the case. I will grant that I am human as well in that respect, and I've probably made plenty of mistakes. But the idea is, like, I hold myself to a level where I would like to get better about it if that's ever been a thing. And I also know that if I ever feel emotional about a thing, that it's just emotion and it will pass. And to completely block out someone and their opinions over that, and I'm not trying to say I'm a Vulcan either, because that's totally not true. But to just completely shut down and disallow the advancement of any kind of conversation, it just completely stifles any progression in humanity. You know, I'd like to consider that as I get older, I become a better person in one way or another. I know a lot of people don't really concern themselves with that sort of thing, and it's, you know, it's your own prerogative if that's how you feel. But I feel like you're doing yourself a disservice if that's the case. You know, try and do little things to become a better person, and even if those little things are just changing a mindset every now and then about a thing that you don't like, even if it doesn't mean that you end up liking it, just the fact that you can be tolerant of it is really important. Because you're gonna spend the rest of your life dealing with people that don't agree with you about tons and tons and tons and tons of things. So why do yourself the disservice of putting up walls when you might have ended up with a bunch of new friends that you could have had just because you chose not to let some personal bias get in your way? So, I mean, I know there's a lot of exceptions to these things, and I know it's never that simple, but to at least have ideals that you want to hold yourself to, I think it's a good start anyway. So that's kind of my rant on that whole topic. I hope you guys found that, I don't know if entertaining is the right word, but maybe enlightening or useful, or at least causes you to think a little bit. That's always good. I mean, not that I'm trying to imply that you guys don't think. I'm just saying, like, pursuing knowledge is always good, and it's really easy to get caught up in a day-to-day grind of, like, doing your work or whatever, not really thinking about, you know, who you are as a person or where you're going or what you're doing. Like, just make time pass sometimes, and I'm totally guilty of that all the time. Just gotta keep thinking about that stuff, man. Just, you know, keep worrying about, do I like who I am? Do I like where I'm going? Do I like the attitudes that I have about certain things? It seems like such an easy thing to start to think about and change, right? Like, it doesn't really require much of any effort. It's just, you go, hey, next time I run into a thing that I don't like, I'm just gonna take a little time to explore the reasons why I might not like it. And it's through that kind of exploration and self-discovery that you tend to realize, like, there aren't really good reasons a lot of the time why I don't like something. Or if there are good reasons, like, they don't have to mean that I have a bias that precludes that I need to stay away from someone over it. Okay, so I've dug myself into a massive pile of lava here, but I'm accruing a ton of mithril in the process, so that's probably pretty good, right? The goblin army showing up soon. Don't really care too much about that. I guess it might be worth fighting them just in case they drop something cool. Goblin army has arrived. Alright, let's pop out of our ship. This has been a not very Terraria-focused episode, so I hope you guys don't mind too much about that, but it's sort of just grindy thing. We're just looking for stuff, looking for materials. And I think we found quite a few. We also found a Gloom statue, Reaper statue. We got an Eater of Worlds mask. I don't think I had that one earlier. And we found the megaphone, which is huge. It's one of the many items that I needed to find for the ability... Oh, what is this? I don't think I've had this yet. Shadowflame Hextall. For me to build the endgame, whatever it's called. All these devices turn into one thing. Cell phone? I think it's cell phone. Alright, so what is this? We have got a lazy Shadowflame Hextall. Summon Shadowflame Tentacles to strike your foe. Oh, that's weird. It's super not powerful, but it's like a really cool looking attack. I could see if I wanted to theme my character a certain way that would be a lot of fun to use. It's too bad that actually it's so bad. Like, if it was a lot more powerful, I could see that actually being quite interesting. Oh, look, I got another one immediately. It took all of 3 seconds. Well, I don't need any more stone blocks or dirt. I think I'm covered on that respect. Is this one more powerful? Well, it's at least neutral, so there's that. We're gonna pick up about 500,000 spike balls because these goblins, I don't know what it is, they just love spike balls. Throw them everywhere. The other thing that I could do, I'm not gonna do it today, but maybe I could do it on the next episode. I could try to attempt to fight the Dungeon Guardian. It's gonna take such a long time. Dude's got like 9,999 health, and although I can fly around and like avoid getting hit by him, I gotta like whittle him down through one hit at a time because he doesn't take more than 1 damage. I think there might be one way to do 2 damage to him if I like crit or something. I actually, don't quote me on that. That might not have been it, but that's all you do. So it's gonna take me like 10,000 shots. So if you're up for that, I don't know if you are, but maybe that's a thing that we could do. I would absolutely love to do it on an episode of this because I want to get that item pretty badly. Summons a little skull pet, which would be nice to have, just to complete my collection. I've never killed the Dungeon Guardian. I've said this in previous episodes, but sounds like a lot of fun to get like the hardest boss in the game done with, even though it's not really a boss in terms of like properly being cataloged as such, but it is a boss in that, like, it drops a thing, and it's very powerful. I mean, you're not even really meant to fight it, except you are, because they incentivize you to fight it, so I don't really know how they want to classify that either. Alright, so that's that. Willy World was pretty good to us. I liked it. Let's go to our actual proper home. And what did I do with... Oh, I put all the strange plants in my piggy bank, that's right. Yeah, so let's phase out of this world. We'll go open our strange plants. And then we can call it a day. You get to see my menus. Willy World. There it is. We're going to Let's Play 1.32. Does anyone know anything about how the generation works for new worlds in this? Because I found that the biomes that I got seemed very diverse when I used a different seed in the title versus just calling it Let's Play 1.3 something something. I seem to run into a lot of the very same kind of things when I did that. So I wonder if they used the title of the world as some sort of seeding device, and it wouldn't surprise me in the least if they did. The other thing is, do they use the date or the time on your system clock? Because if you just spawn a bunch of worlds in the same 5 minutes, you know, maybe that would partially decide it too. Stuff that I should really look into, but I guess I'm just asking you guys, I'm curious. Alright, let's sell a bunch of stuff that I know I don't need off the top of my head. I don't need any more rash water walking boots. I've got a few pairs, but I knew they were worth quite a bit, so I kept it. Treasure bag has no value. That's a shame. It should be worth like 100 gold, or 1 platinum is what we call that. Already got a guarding worm scarf last time. Don't really need another rune robe, although I appreciate them. And we'll get rid of this Shadow Flame Hex die. Spiky balls, we're good on. Rune hat, we're good on. I don't need a candelabra. And I'm not going to sell the lucky megaphone, so don't... Oh, yeah, here we go. Godly magic dagger. Let me make sure that the magic dagger I have is not godly. I think it is, but I want to make sure. It is celestial, so actually I just got the best one. Cool. Now I never have to reforge that if for some reason I want to make a character that uses that dagger. I don't know why I would do that, but I like knowing that I've got it. And I still get 7 gold from that one. It's not bad anyway. Alright. So we're looking good on that. I want a quick stack, but I'm like a little apprehensive about it, considering I don't know how many things are going to go back into my chest in ways. You know what? I think we're good. I think I can quick stack. A lot of them are gems, so the gems are just going to find their way home. And I think I've got all the statues already set too. But I'm just going to do one of those. Cool. Eater of Worlds Mask did not quick stack, which should mean that I don't have it already. Where did I put Master? Here. Neat. I did show you that I had the Ancient Cultist Mask, right? I hope I did. And we've got this whole, like, variety of weird-looking boss heads that I can wear. It's kind of cool. We want to put away our Platinum Chandelier. I do have those already. Good. And before we go any further, actually, I just want to double-check that... Did I only need this megaphone, or was there another item? Oh, I needed a Nazar, which is pretty rare. Okay, so this is not a done deal yet, but we're close. We're halfway there on that particular item, and we've got a lot of the other parts mostly ready to go in here. We're just going to drop this in here for now. I'm going to need, like, a whole nother area for accessories. This has gotten out of control again. I know there's a couple in here that I could combine, so I want to make that a thing, too. But it would be nice to have, like, a spot for expert mode accessories. It'd be nice to have a spot for all these freaking emblems and all my counterweights, and I don't know. I need like an entire row of 5 chests now for, or 6 chests for my accessory stuff. You know what, the rest of the stuff I can deal with later. Let's grab the strange plants, which are not in the general chest like I usually put them in. I'm silly. Oh, did I have that trophy already or no? Eater of Worlds trophy? Yes, I did. Well, now I've got 2. No biggie. Let's go talk to the dye vendor. We got negative, Martian, reflective obsidian. Alright, these 2, super not a big deal. Martian dye, I only had a few of. I think I just had the 3, right? Or did I misremember? Yeah, Martian dye just had the 3. This one's a pretty cool looking one as well. Might be neat on my character build. Let's take a quick look. You know, that's actually quite cool. I kind of like the contrast of the cloak and wings being sort of reflective black, and then we've got the head, which is sort of strobing a little bit. And the shield, of course, which is, you know, big and bulbous and sitting in front of our character, but yeah, not a bad dye. I like it. So anyway, that's going to be it for today's episode. I'm going to go ahead and put away all my inventory stuff, and I think next episode we'll go back to the world we were in. Maybe harvest some more materials, or maybe we'll go to another world. And I don't know, maybe we'll fight the Dungeon Guardian if we're really feeling cheeky about the whole thing. Anyway, that's going to be it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure you leave a like if you still enjoy the series, and I will see you for the next one. Talk to y'all soon.